Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. A lot to talk about today. People stopping me in the halls to talk today. And this is cool because I'm usually not the cool kid up here at work. We're in the nerd station. You know, we talk about the news, sports, and weather and stuff. And, you know, it's like if we were a TV show from the 80s, we would be like Family Ties. You know, we just run around and we're all business and whatnot. We're the Alex P. Keatons up here. And usually it's like, you know, the sports station's cool or the country guys are cool because they get to talk to, like, I don't know what are their names these days, Florida Georgia Line or something. Well, this is our time to shine. This is our Super Bowl. We have an election coming up just 77 days away. And not only is you know, this only happens once every 4 years, and every 4 years history is made. This has been just a freak mutant of an election season, and the DNC started yesterday. Speaking of freaks and mutants, my first guest, Dr. Kyle Gilson from SMU, is on the James Show to help make some sense of it. I got to watch a little bit of it, got to watch quite a bit of highlights this morning, and while, you know, politically speaking, I don't think I agreed with a whole lot that was said up there. I think overall, if you are on Team Blue, you probably liked what you saw last night.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I watched for a couple of hours and then read about it this morning. And you know, I think that the convention was really waiting for its opportunity to send off Joe Biden in a positive way, but to send him off. You know, he's now exiting the stage. He won't be there for the rest of the convention, and I think he'll be tending to the presidential duties for the rest of the campaign while Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are out there campaigning. But the convention wanted to say, good job, Joe, and to thank him for his service, and they did that.
Yeah, they need to get him off that stage and quick. He barely made it through his speech last night, Cal.
Yeah, I watched part of it and clips of it. Those are difficult speeches to give, but most of the commentary this morning isn't dwelling on shortcomings of that speech. They're dwelling on the fact that the Democrats wanted to have an opportunity to say thank you, Joe. So, you know, everybody looks at those things and sees them the way they want them to be. And for Democrats, they thought it was a good speech.
So do you think they're making a good pitch at these undecided voters?
Well, you know, the undecided voters are not going to be attracted by policy detail. They're going to be attracted by the feel of this convention compared to the feel of the Republican convention a month ago. There are only 5 or 6% of American voters that are undecided, and generally the undecideds lean one way or the other and usually go the way they lean, so the numbers are quite small. And I think you attract them more with feel, where you attract your own partisans more with themes, as you were saying a minute ago that you were listening to last night. So the question is, if those people who are still undecided didn't want Trump and didn't want Biden, does Kamala Harris substituting in for Biden give them a place to go? And it looks like the independents are breaking toward Biden. So you saw earlier today toward Harris, and you saw earlier today that Kennedy and his running mate are now discussing whether to get out of the race in favor of Donald Trump in order to block what they take to be a Kamala Harris surge. So there's a lot going on.
They think that would help Trump more than Biden.
Yeah, that's right. Because early on, the presumption was that Kennedy, because of his name, would draw more people from Biden-Harris than he would for Trump. But as time has gone on, polling has suggested that he's actually taking more votes from Trump. And when you do a two-person race, Harris versus Trump, Harris is up by 3 or 4 points. She's up an additional point when you take Kennedy out of it. So it does appear that those Kennedy voters are breaking a little bit toward Trump. And so if they got out, he would benefit a little bit, maybe a point, which wouldn't catch him all the way up from where things seem to be right now, despite what your previous guest said. But it's hard to know what they will do. But they're going down as their numbers have fallen from around 12 or so down to 4 or 5, and they'll continue falling because people are always calculating, and they're thinking, well, I know Kennedy's not going to win. Am I going to put my vote there anyway as a protest, or am I going to decide which of the top 2 candidates to go for? And more of those undecideds do decide. And so we'll see which way they go.
Well, another speech that I was going to have my eye on because of the local implications here in Dallas, Jasmine Crockett is the representative for a big chunk of the WBAP listening area. And even though she's only a freshman congresswoman, this is her first term, she somehow got a spot on stage at the DNC. So what a great opportunity for so early in her career to get such a big spot. And I watched the whole thing. I thought she did great. I thought Jasmine Crockett has a future in front of her. She did better than AOC. Like in my rankings of what I saw last night, she's probably more likely to have a long-term, high-ranking future in Democrat politics than even AOC is. I was really impressed with her.
Yeah, I think I saw AOC. I didn't see Jasmine Crockett. But the reason Jasmine Crockett was on the stage is her performance on the investigations committee, and she has gone head to head with the Georgia Congresswoman
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I was going to play that as a little flashback reminder in the next segment, Cal. So you're right on schedule.
She gave as good as she got, and she is very articulate. But she needs to be aware that 2 out of the 4 of the original team around AOC
squad
defeated.
Yeah, the squad
were defeated for re-election over the course of the last couple of weeks, and so she is very articulate. She can carry an argument very well, but you've got to also exercise some self-control. You got to know when to pull back on the reins in order to remain credible. And so she's going to be walking on the edge, and we'll see whether she can maintain that or tips over.
All right, Cal Jillson, y'all back in school yet?
No, next Monday.
All right.
Next Monday. So
well,
me in, Coach.
And enjoy the last few days of summer, Cal. Thanks for being on the James Show.
All right, buddy.
All right, I have a few highlights, and then I am going to play the flashback to what Cal Jillson just referred to, is the soundbite that probably is the reason Jasmine Crockett was on stage last night, but she did great. I know we don't agree with her politically, but hey, if there has to be someone who's in charge in the future of Team Blue, and at least it's one of our neighbors, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Highlights from the DNC coming up next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The first day of the Democrat National Convention 2024 is in the books. Some big names were up there. I mean, Hillary Clinton had to go the first day. The sitting president of the United States had to go on the first day. AOC got her spot on the first day. Jasmine Crockett got her spot on the first day. So a lot happening already. A lot that was getting the news attention from at least the Fox crowd was what was happening outside the building. A lot of protesters out there. And I don't want to say I enjoy seeing them be protested, but it's nice when the protesters are bugging their own kind instead of just random people. Like this is better. I prefer this than when they block streets. I prefer this than when they were blocking the entrance to Dallas Love Field, or when they glue their hand to like a crosswalk or something goofy like that. Again, I think that's not the way you try and influence statecraft. It's still an adult hissy fit, but bothers me a little bit less when it's around the DNC itself. So when we start to go through some of the audio, I want to play you like all of Biden's speech, but I don't want to waste your time. And it's not even what he said. If you go look at his face, like how Botoxed up is that man? so little of his face actually moves. He's had so many clips and nips and tucks that he doesn't look like the same dude. And look, this isn't his fault. A lot of old people do that. Nancy Pelosi's had plastic surgery. I swear, if my chin starts sagging once more, I'm probably just going to clip it with pruning shears myself. So I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying he looks and sounds so different than from when he was the vice president that is this decline accelerating by the hour? Let me play you one clip from him, and then we'll get to some of your thoughts. 800-288-9227. This is just, and again, you don't have to listen to the content of what he's saying. Listen to how you just hear the train fall off the tracks. The crowd tries to save him with some helpful applause, and he sort of recovers. But his speech was like, he did this a few times during the speech last night.
Wade, as you heard earlier tonight, the United States Supreme Court majority wrote the following, quote, women are not without electoral or political power. No kidding.
Dude, clown college. The entire media apparatus up until a month ago was telling you that guy was presidential material. Clown college. More highlights coming up, but if you want to jump in with your opinion, you can do what Kevin in Fort Worth did. 800-288-9227. What's up, Kevin in Fort Worth? What did you think about what you saw last night?
Yes, 1 second here. I'm going back to before this happened when June, that first early debate. That was all a setup to expose Biden for what he really is, just to install Kamala. It's no surprise. We just have to really stay one step ahead of these guys. Well, it's a clown show. That was ridiculous.
I like the fact that you, a month later, go back and review a story that we already talked about and put some additional thought into it. Because now, when you look at the timing of that, if you were going to install the next puppet to be in there, the perfect time to do it would be between when all of the primary votes are finished and the convention happens. And there's really only a narrow little 2-month window for that to happen. They scheduled the debate right at the beginning of that window. So yeah, if you want to go try and put the puzzle pieces together after the fact, in hindsight, it is looking like more orchestrated than not. Or, I don't know if it was orchestrated, but if it was orchestrated, this is a timetable that someone might have thought of in advance. You're absolutely right, Kevin.
It's second grade behavior. It's crazy. It's grade school crap. And they even went way back to during the 2018 or anywhere between the first 4 years for Donald Trump. He was in, I think, Oklahoma City, and they had a big rally, but the Democrats went in there like little spoiled children and bought up all the tickets so none of us Trump supporters could actually go.
Oh, yeah, I remember the Tulsa rally. I remember that.
Yep. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. I mean, all this stuff. And where is that 2018 Hispanic pipe bomber that sent all those prominent Democrats a pipe bomb that never detonated? It's all a big joke.
He's right next to the
selected.
He's right next to the pipe bomber on January 6th. We never figured out who that guy was. They found pipe bombs.
And they're living a life of luxury somewhere in a deserted island and millions of dollars.
Yeah, probably hanging out with Tupac and Biggie right now too. All right,
you bet.
Good question. I mean, good call there, Kevin in Fort Worth. And look, I have Milton over here on Facebook who says Harris Waltz 2024 and a little heart emoji. I'd be interested to talk to you, Milton. Because I think my Democrat friends lie to me because I don't think they want to rock the boat. They're very agreeable people, and I mean that in a nice way. They don't want to start arguments, and they don't want anyone to get agitated. And when we're all hanging out, they don't want anyone to have anything but a good time, so they try and avoid saying things like this. But look, I would like to hear from you if you're on Team Blue. What did you think about what you saw last night? What did you think about the speeches? What did you think about the policy platforms? What do you think about the ticket? What do you think about the optics? What do you think about Kamala Harris? What do you think about the criticism of her? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, not everyone that was on the stage last night was a big star. I don't know who this woman was. She was only described to us as a friend of Kamala. So I think this is some lady that she used to know.
Cares so much that if you're lucky enough to be her friend, she calls you on her birthday, and sometimes she sings to you. She called me on mine.
I think that was supposed to be an applause line, but it didn't get any applause. And I think there's also, now we have evidence that they have bottomless mimosas backstage, because that was a little slurry. She was one of the early ones. Like, you shouldn't be slurring at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You really shouldn't start drinking until the James Show is over. And if, maybe you get an early start on Friday or it's your birthday, there's some exceptions here and there. But just as, a soft rule of thumb is on weekdays, don't drink until the James Show is over, but especially if you're going to be speaking on stage. All right, your thoughts on the DNC? I still have a bunch of highlights to come. You heard some from Biden and Kamala's friends. You're going to hear from Kamala herself. You're going to hear from Jasmine Crockett. You're going to hear from, got a Hillary Clinton highlight. It's all coming up on the James Show, but also your thoughts are welcome. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, EJ from the Heritage Foundation is going to talk about the economics in Kamala's platform thus far. This is the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Democrat National Convention kicked off yesterday, continues tonight. The two big headliners, and this is big for Team Blue. It would be both Michelle and Barack Obama. I'm going to play some more highlights coming up from last night's speeches. But my next guest needs to come on and explain some of the economic proposals. We've been waiting for a platform. We've been griping about it. Finally, one's been released. And what do? First thing we do is we just tear it apart. Are we being fair, EJ Antoni from the Heritage Foundation? Or what's your thoughts on the economics from Kamala's proposals?
Well, I think you're being more than fair here, because literally any time we have tried these policies anywhere, they have always failed. It's not an exaggeration. That's the historical record. Whether you're talking about accusing corporations of being greedy and blaming them for inflation, or you're saying that we can just set prices artificially and that will solve all of our problems. I mean, you name it, every single trope that these people trot out is just a flat out lie.
So why did she say it?
Because it's politically advantageous for them to do so. There are enough people who don't understand the economics of the situation, because they have gone through our dumbed-down education system here in America, that they are willing to buy into these lies because they sound appealing.
Well, that's a big problem, because if someone is that economically illiterate or ignorant, even when I tell them the truth, it's not going to change their mind.
Well, hopefully, if they get hit over the head hard enough by life, then they'll actually get a clue here. I think that's actually starting to happen now, with a lot of people finally connecting the dots on inflation. For years I've preached that it is excess government spending which is ultimately the root cause of inflation. And now that we have seen so much of that excess spending to the tune of literally trillions of dollars, and you got 40-year high inflation out of it, all of a sudden I think people are starting to wake up to these realities. The sad part, though, is that it truly does take that kind of devastating impact on their lives for them to wake up.
So Kamala Harris does price controls. What happens?
You get shortages at the end of the day. There's a great line by Milton Friedman where he says, economists don't really know much, but we know how to create shortages. And you just have to set a price that's below the prevailing market price. That's all you have to do. So if we do that here with groceries, you will get shortages of groceries. A great example in just recent times. You don't even have to go back to the 70s and look at the gas lines, although that's fine. You can do that.
I was going to do that next in my notes. Yeah.
Well, just look at what's happened recently in Venezuela, where what did they do? They created a whole list of different prices that you could charge for different groceries, and it was no longer profitable for farmers, for ranchers, whatever the case may be, to bring any of that those foodstuffs to market, and so they stopped, because you can't force a rancher to raise cattle at a loss. And the result was widespread shortages and literal starvation. Less than a year after they instituted all of these different price caps, they actually stopped having zoos in the country. There were no zoos anymore. They all closed. You know why? Because people were starving to such a great extent that they literally broke into the zoos and ate the animals in the exhibits. I'm not kidding.
Oh, no, Look, I have a hard time not eating an ocelot right now, and we have plenty of food in the grocery store, so I totally get that. But look, There's the easy way you can just dismiss this by saying, well, yeah, that's some other foreign country. That's not how it works here. And so that is kind of the thing I like about the comparison to the 70s gas crunch is, look, even when it's tried here, and it was under a Republican president we had gas shortages, and then didn't we try that again under Jimmy Carter, or was that President Ford? Like, we did it twice in the 70s. I don't remember because I wasn't born, but...
Sure. No, we actually tried these price controls 3 times in the 70s, 2 Republicans and a Democrat. So you had Nixon, you had Ford, and you had Carter. And every time we put these price controls in place, sure enough, you ended up with shortages. You can't just change the laws of supply and demand. The world, the universe does not abide by your wishes. Reality is reality. And if you choose to ignore it, you're going to get, again, hit in the head by it.
Right. And calling something a human right doesn't render it immune to the laws of scarcity. How much of this is Kamala Harris just reciting what she was passed down from her Marxist dad?
Well, I'm sure that's all. I'm sure that's the entirety of it. It's all been passed down to her, and maybe it was from her Marxist dad. Maybe it was just from her handlers at the DNC, whatever the case may be. I think if there's anything that she has demonstrated throughout her entire career, it's that she is just an empty vessel, and her handlers have always just poured into her whatever they want her to be. And this is just another example of that. She has no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah, well, EJ said that. I can't use that metaphor. I would get an HR call put on me, calling women empty vessels. Thank you, EJ and Tony from the Heritage Foundation, for your time again. I appreciate you being on the James Show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Heritage Foundation, man, they are on top of all this. And that's why I need to talk to these guys sometimes. I didn't know it was 3 times in the 70s, and it was all 3 presidents. I was trying to kind of guess there, and he straightened it out. I do not have the time to sneak in a call. Roy, you'll be first up. But listen, let's talk about the DNC. What do you see in these policies? What do you see in these speeches? What do you think about the election 2024 that's just now 77 days away? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We're talking about the DNC. Kicked off last night, continues tonight. And look, I don't think there's a whole lot of surprises here. We're just seeing what the polls do afterwards. We're also seeing if there's any more of an insight in the actual policy platforms, and really just enjoying the show. I have some more highlights to run by you, including highlights from our local representative, Jasmine Crockett. But first, let's talk to you. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Roy in DeSoto, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
I would like to just try to get a clear understanding, especially from conservatives, when the figures are promulgated about only 25% of the people are interested in the economy being at the level where it is because they are totally distant. But yet when the polls reflect that 1% want Kamala Harris to be president, and then the conservatives say you can't trust polls. Well, why is it we can trust 25% 1% positive polls?
Yeah, well, what was the 25% positive? Your phone kind of broke up a second.
Okay, 25%. The conservatives are basically saying only 25% of the people in America are satisfied with the economy that's been caused by Joe Biden, in their estimation, and Kamala Harris. And then when 51% say they want her to be president.
Oh, how do you explain that gap?
How do you explain that?
Yeah, so there's
often the rebuttal is, well, I don't believe in polls. I don't trust polls. Okay, if you don't trust polls, why do you trust the 25% polls? And if you don't trust that poll, where you're getting that number from, that only 25% of the people are satisfied with the economy?
Well, all that really means is you're asking the question, how can there be, and this is possible, how can there be 26% of people out there who think the economy's bad but would continue to vote for the incumbent? And all that means is they're not basing their vote on the economy. You know, there's a big chunk of people out there who base their vote on just one issue. And for some people, it's abortion. For other people, it's racism. On the right-wing side, if it's pro-life or pro-gun, you know, there's a lot of single-issue voters out there. So the economy doesn't sway everyone's mind. But you can also see how there's 51% of the people out there who like Kamala Harris that are not happy with the economy. So the real question is, well, then what's in the mind? What's driving the vote of those 26% that are not happy with the economy but still voting on Team Blue? And that just simply means they're more interested in another issue over economics.
May I respond to that?
Of course.
I believe, because I'm a Christian, and often those who consider themselves evangelical Christians, they completely disparage us by saying there's no way you can be a Christian and vote Democrat. There's no way you can be a born-again believer and embrace Democrat policies. My response to that is, it's often the hypocrisy of that position, and especially it's not the message but the messenger that literally has been acquiesced to by the entire conservative movement, no matter what he does. When you have a candidate who will boldly say, I can go out and shoot somebody, and they will still vote for me.
Well, that's a hypothetical. Come on.
Okay, when he says it, it's a hypothetical. But when people on the left make statements, you all completely rip those statements to shreds. It's a double standard, and that's why, in most instances, again, in my humble opinion, many conservatives and Republicans are literally pulling their hair out, the chief of whom is Donald Trump. He cannot figure this out.
I don't think anybody's pulling their hair. What do you mean pulling their hair out? Pulling their hair out over what?
Pulling their hair out over how on earth has Kamala Harris seemingly come out of, in your vernacular, the basement and risen to the penthouse.
Well, yeah, but we're pulling our hair out because people on Team Blue are now enthusiastic about a candidate that was forced upon them without any vote, without any primary process, without any debates, without any vetting whatsoever. You are now just...
If we are pleased, it's almost like you're saying you are displeased with who I have chosen to align myself with. And if I...
No. Look, I'm sorry to cut you off. Look, you didn't choose her, though. She was forced upon you, and y'all are all just willingly, this is our candidate. Yay, we love her. But y'all didn't choose her. You didn't. She was forced on you.
That's your perspective.
Oh, you voted for her?
Yes.
In the primaries?
I voted for her when I cast my vote for Joe Biden and the Kamala Harris ticket.
Look,
because
I'm not arguing with you. I'm trying to explain to you why other people are surprised how quickly y'all can rally around someone who was forced on, who you didn't vote for. I'm not even saying that's
because it gives us a viable, excited option.
So what was all that democracy stuff?
Okay. My response to that is the democracy is still in play because nothing has been forced upon us. That's your point of view.
No, it's not a point of view. Y'all had primary process. Y'all had 50 contests. Joe Biden won all of them. Now he's not the candidate. And there was no voting process, or even your betters in the Democrat Party didn't even check with y'all. They're just telling you who you're going to vote for, and y'all are just sucking it up like, yay, okay, this is great. As long as it's not this Trump Nazi, as long as it's not those hypocritical Christians. By the way, I agree with you. It makes me cringe when Christians say, I don't see how any Christian can support either party. Y'all are both sound like goofballs. I think you and I aren't that far apart. Just stop.
And I agree with you. I really did. That was one of the reasons I called. I think you and I, as opposed to some of the previous hosts at this time slot, have a lot to agree upon. It's not necessarily the message. It's the messenger and the hypocrisy of those who continue to condone the absolute ungodly behavior.
I know. I can push back against that because when we had a perfect human being who didn't say mean things or do mean tweets or cheat on his wife or sleep with porn stars or do hush money payments or any of this other shady stuff that, is morally critical, we had Mitt Romney out there. Yeah, trashed. And I don't mean you. I just mean Team Blue. He gets trashed. We're going to get trashed whoever we put up there. And if you're trashing the human being, it's an ad hominem attack. You're not even touching the policies. You haven't touched any of Donald Trump's policies thus far. If your only complaint against him is that he's a bad guy or a horrible Christian or immoral, it sounds like he'd still be a pretty good president.
My concern is one of the most outstanding messengers for the conservative movement are the Republican Party was the one who was literally cast to the side, castigated, and completely obliterated Mike Pence. Why? Because he did not fall in line with what the dictator wanted him to do. If Mike Pence had been out front, and I don't speak only for myself, I am a pastor of a church, and I'm a member of several national conventions.
See,
we have
this is hang on, I hate to cut you off. I'm just running out of time. This is all ad hominem. You're praising Mike Pence just because he agreed with you on the election results. You didn't bring up a policy platform or anything he would do different than Trump as far as govern the country. You just, as far as the national points of public debate and the election, hey, he was on our side, so he's a good Republican, not like those bad ones. And in all this stuff about how they're bad, it was all ad hominem. Every single one of your complaints, none of it was like, well, I don't like his positions on economics or the border or Social Security reform or anything nuanced like that. It was just, he is bad. He is not Christian. You should not like him. He is mean. And that's not very convincing. You call everybody bad. You called Mitt Romney bad. So that criticism rings hollow in the mind of a lot of people because it's been overused. Anyway, thanks for calling. I think you did a good job explaining your points. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. More DNC coverage next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.